Okay, Streamside Orvis, week 5 fly tying. We're doing the double cone stone, hence the 2 cones here. This is an extra small hairline cone up front and then a small in the back. And you can do the same size cones. I just like the size of this for the actual head and a little more weight with this. Now obviously if you do a bigger stonefly, you can use bigger cones, or smaller, you can do smaller. But for this size 8, I believe it's an 8, yeah, size 8, I think a small and an extra small work pretty good. So I'm going to get my thread started here, right about where I want my body to end. Now this first cone is going to butt up against our body, and I want it about like that. So I want to go a little further in so that our cone can rest on our dubbing for our body. So that's just a little reminder for me of where to stop. And I'm going to take my thread back to where the barb would be. So I can tie in my tails. Now I'm using Biot tails. I've done this with, rubber. You can use all sorts of material for your tails. I like the way the Biots look. Same goes with the legs. You can use rubber, which we're going to do today, or you can use Biots if you want to make it a little more lifelike. And so I'm going to put these back to back. I'm going to set them right on top. After, of course, I like to do a little thread ball here. It's getting ahead of myself. And all this ball does is help flare these out a little bit, because if you look at a natural stonefly, they have pretty wide space between their tails. So I'm going to get the length I want. Pinch those on the sides. Get a couple good wraps, just make sure it's where I want it. And it is. So I'm going to wrap these up to where, again, I want my body to end. And I'll come in and clip those off. Doesn't have to be super pretty. We're going to use quite a bit of dubbing here to cover all this up. So I'll work my way back down to where I tied those in, and you'll see as I get close to this ball, these tails will tend to flare a little bit more and look a little more natural. So at this point, I'm going to want to tie in our ribbing material. We're using copper wire just because it looks good. You could use flash, you could use different colors of wire. Being we're using a copper cone, might as well use copper wire. And again, I'm going to set this and tie it into the end of our body. If it doesn't turn on me here. Get that tied in. Now that I'm back down by my tails, I can grab some dubbing. We're using a Hare's Ear Plus in gold. It's kind of a dirty yellow with some browns in there, and there's a couple different colors in there. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take some dubbing, and I'm going to create a dubbing noodle, and I'm going to go up and down this body a few times. I'm not going to put it all in at once. It just makes for a more durable fly, and it also, you can kind of hone in the size you want. Because if you look at a stonefly out of the river, they're not super skinny, but they're also not super fat either. So I'm going to take this right up to where I want my body to end. And now on a normal mayfly nymph that tends to be on the thinner side, I'd call that good. But again, stonefly, I'm going to take a little more dubbing. And I'm going to essentially treat this like I'm doing a thread taper. And I'm going to go back down the body. But I'm not going to go all the way. I'm going to stop just shy of where the body starts by the tails. And I'm going to come back up once I add a little bit more dubbing to get myself up there. So now I'm going to continue back up. Need just a pinch more because I want a good base for that cone to sit on. You know what? I'm going to do a little bit more. Again, I don't want that cone moving at all. So once we get our body, I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to do one full wrap, and once I get my one wrap, I'm going to pick my angle. I'm going to get 4 or 5 segments. I mean, you can do 6, you can do however many you want. I get about 5, and that fills up my body pretty well. Capture that off, fold it back, tie in front. Now, holding tension here, you can grab your wire nice and tight and rotate it around till it breaks off nice and clean. And we'll just make sure that we tie that end down if it's sticking up. Then we can slide our cone back up against that body. So once we do that, we'll hold that there, jump our thread in front of it, and we will fill our area in with thread. And then I'm typically doing some kind of a, like a ramp here out of thread, just to make sure that that one cone doesn't move while I'm tying in any other material. So now that we have our tails, our body, and our first cone, we need to do a wing bud. Now they've got 2 wing buds and then a pad. I'm not too concerned about the pad. I like how these wing buds look. And for this, I've been using this fulling mill scud skin in medium, which is a 6mm, and it's brown. It's really flexible, easy to work with. Now I cut a little V notch in it because if you look at the wing pads on these stoneflies, they have a little angle to them, and I dropped it. So cut a little chunk off, cut your V notch in it. I'm going to set it right on top, almost all the way over that bead. I want a little bit of that cone sticking out just for some color there. And then I'll do one loose wrap, and on my second one I'll start to tighten, get a couple in there, make sure it hasn't moved. See how it moved right there? I'm going to back my tension off, rotate it back to where I want it, hold it nice and tight, and wrap in the rest of it so that it doesn't move. And then I'll take my thread and I'll wrap back up against this cone right there. Got it right on top. Now this is when I tend to tie my legs in, just because there's not a bunch of stuff in the way. And I'm going to do rubber on this one. Again, if you wanted to do biots, you could. Definitely looks good. Tie our leg in, move it to the sides. One piece of round rubber on each side. Again, these are brown. You could do hot legs. I've done these with red legs, and it looks kind of cool. Again, it's not super lifelike, it's just suggestive. So once I get these guys tied in nice and tight, now I'm going to take some more dubbing, same dubbing, And we're gonna fill in this area here before we put on our second wing pad. So pull out some thread, get some dubbing going here. Now this area you can use a little bit more on your noodle, your dubbing noodle, because you can pick it out. It's easier to pick out if you use more, because then you obviously end up losing a little bit. But I'm going to hold these legs back and I'm going to wrap backwards up to that cone. It's got a little pad right there. I'm going to take some more dubbing and I want to spread these legs out, so I'm actually going to use this dubbing to pull my legs forward for a little bit. And I'm basically going to fill in this area up to that cone with dubbing. So again, I'm going to get some good wraps of dubbing in here. If your legs move, don't worry. You're just tying them down with dubbing. You can move them. I want a little bit more. I want it a little tighter. That was pretty loose on the dubbing side of things. So if you wrap back over it with more dubbing, it tends to tighten things up. Now notice I'm not going right up against the bead yet, and that's because I need a little room to tie in our second wing case right here. And I want to do that pretty much right up at the bead. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this down so that it pretty much butts up against our first one. So that V notch is going to have a little bit of dubbing showing through it. And I'm just going to take my thread nice and light over the top, but again behind that cone. So we're going to end up tucking this tag end underneath or inside that cone. So your legs are going to move on you. And I'm just going to pull nice and tight. Get a couple good wraps, fold it back, get a couple in front. Now I'm going to come in with my scissors. I'm going to trim this guy off like so. Make sure my legs are where I want them. The far side's usually the one that messes with you the most. But again, it's rubber. We can kind of manhandle these. And now last thing we're going to do is take another, again, a little pinch of dubbing here. Pull some thread out. Get a nice noodle, slide that up. Now this time I'm going to hold all these legs back. Wrap right behind that bead so that it tightens everything up. I'm actually going to use a little bit more. I don't mind seeing a little bit of dubbing behind the cone and on top of that last wing pad. I don't want a ton of it, but see how that little piece came off? I'm just going to back up. I'm going to re-twist it onto my thread. There we go. And the nice thing about this synthetic scud skin is if it moves on you, just like the rubber legs, you can move it back. So I'm going to take my whip finish tool, come in, do a couple turns on a whip finish, and then just for security I'm going to do a second one. It is behind the bead, so it is, or cone, so it is protected from any kind of teeth or anything. Now again, you can see my legs are going all over the place, so manhandle them around a little bit, and I'm just going to fold them all up I'm going to pinch them. And this is totally up to you how long you want them to be. But these round rubber legs really move a lot in the water, so you get a lot of good movement out of it. And that's, adjust here so you can see a little better. You can see those two wing cases there. Nice and buggy looking. You can also take a little bit of Velcro here, or a bodkin, or a legit dubbing teaser. Brush out that bottom. Get a little more bugginess in there. But that is the double cone stone with rubber legs.